Hey, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, so today we're tackling something I think a lot of us can relate to. Debt. That feeling of, a weight on your shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to try to make it a little less scary today, all right?
Sounds good.
We're going to use this book, Empower Your Wallet by Jim Coulter. And we're hoping to pull out some really practical advice, specifically for dealing with things like credit card debt, student loans, medical bills. You name it, if it causes financial stress, we're going to try to find some answers.
A lot of people just feel powerless when it comes to their finances.
Oh, totally.
So I think this book and what we're talking about today is really about taking back that control, right? Making choices, not just feeling stuck.
Exactly. So step one, and this is where Coulter starts, is actually facing the music.
Figuring out, like, down to the penny, what you owe, list every single debt, the interest rate, minimum payments, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Have you found that this is a hard step for people? Oh, it's the hardest. It's like they'd rather just ignore it, hope it goes away.
Right. Hide under the covers.
But that just makes it worse.
Makes it way worse.
The book's point is, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge.
So true. So once we've, had that come to Jesus moment with our finances, what's next? What does Empower Your Wallet suggest?
Prioritizing. So the book says to, like, categorize your debts, high interest versus low interest, that kind of thing.
Okay. Is this just about, the numbers, or is there like a psychological element to it too?
I think it's both. Like, when you focus on those high interest debts first, you're actually saving yourself money in the long run, which, can be pretty motivating.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You see that number going down and you're like, yes, I'm doing something right.
Exactly. It's not just throwing money at the problem.
Yeah, it's strategic. Now, I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised that Empower Your Wallet isn't all doom and gloom.
It's not, is it?
It actually talks about budgeting in a way that, doesn't make me want to curl up and cry.
Right. It's about making choices that work for you.
So it's not about deprivation. It's about what? What's the framing?
Being intentional. Making choices that, actually match your goals.
Okay, I like that. So it's not just cut out all lattes.
Nope. Gotta have some joy in life.
Exactly. It's about finding a sustainable way to manage money, right? Not just something you can do for 2 weeks and then give up.
Totally. It has to fit into your life, not the other way around.
Okay, so once you've got a budget figured out, that's when things get interesting. The book starts talking about some actual debt relief strategies, and honestly, I got kind of excited reading this part.
Oh, yeah. Which one's caught your eye?
Well, the whole concept of debt consolidation. Imagine taking all those different debts, different due dates, and interest rates, and just bundling them together.
Into one nice little package.
Yes, often with a lower interest rate too. How great would that be?
Sounds amazing, doesn't it?
It does. But, got to be realistic. There's got to be a downside. There's no such thing as a financial magic bullet, right?
Well, yeah. Sometimes consolidation can extend your repayment term.
Meaning?
You could actually end up paying more interest overall, even with a lower rate.
Ah, so it's a trade-off. You got to do the math, figure out what works best for your situation.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's good to know it's an option. And it's not the only one, right? The book lays out a bunch of different approaches, a whole toolkit.
It does, and I think a lot of people don't even know what's out there.
Yeah, and that's why this deep dive is so important. But before we go deeper into those specific strategies, I'm just curious, from your experience, what's the biggest mistake people make when they're facing debt?
That's a good question. I think it's the mindset more than anything.
Oh, okay.
People get so overwhelmed, they freeze up, they avoid opening their bills, they miss payments, it just snowballs. But the book really drives home the point that taking action, even small steps, can make a huge difference.
So it's about feeling empowered, even when the situation feels hopeless.
Right. You're not helpless. You have choices.
Which brings us back to those strategies. Knowing your options can really help with that sense of being stuck.
Exactly. So, ready to unpack some of these tools?
Let's do it. First up, something I think most of us are pretty familiar with, credit card debt. This is where Empower Your Wallet gets super specific.
Yeah, it lays out some really tactical stuff.
Okay, give it to me straight. What are some of the key takeaways for dealing with that plastic monster?
Well, budgeting's a big one, of course. But for credit cards, the book really highlights the snowball and avalanche methods.
Okay, remind me, what are those again?
The snowball method is all about paying off the smallest debts first. even if they have a lower interest rate.
So it's about the momentum, like
Mm.
getting those quick wins to stay motivated.
Exactly.
Like, check that off the list. Bam, next one.
And then there's the avalanche method. That one focuses on tackling the highest interest rate debt first.
So that's more about saving money in the long run, even if it takes a little longer to see those big wins.
Yep, that's the idea.
Okay, so snowball for motivation, avalanche for, like, maximizing your savings. But
Yeah.
there's more, right? The book also mentions negotiating with creditors. Is that, like, a real thing people do?
Oh, yeah, and it works more often than you might think.
Really?
The key is you got to come prepared, know your budget, have a realistic repayment plan in mind, and just be honest about your situation.
So it's not about, like, begging for mercy. It's about being proactive.
Right. It's a conversation. You're presenting yourself as someone who's, responsible, trying to find a solution.
Makes sense. And speaking of getting to the root of the problem, the book also talks about how credit card debt often comes from emotional spending,
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
like retail therapy gone wrong.
Sometimes it's not even about wanting this stuff.
It's about filling some other void.
Yeah, like trying to cope with stress or something. The book suggests finding other ways to deal with this feeling, ways that don't involve maxing out your credit card.
Okay, so it's a multi-pronged approach, right? You've got your practical strategies like snowball or avalanche. Then there's the communication piece, talking to your creditors, and then like maybe some inner work too, figuring out why you're spending in the first place.
That's all connected.
It is, and it highlights something really important about the whole book, I think. It's not just about numbers. It's about understanding ourselves, our relationship with money.
Exactly. It's a journey.
It is a journey. Speaking of which, let's move on to a debt that can feel particularly daunting: student loans.
Ooh, yeah, that one's a beast.
It really is. And the book acknowledges that, right? Like, it's a different kind of animal than credit card debt.
For sure. The amounts are usually way bigger.
Yeah. And they can hang over your head for like decades. Plus, the repayment options are super confusing.
Right. So the book starts by breaking down the types of student loans, federal versus private.
Okay, got to understand the difference there. Why?
Because each one has its own, rules and repayment options. It's crucial to know which one you're dealing with.
All right, so understanding the loan type is step one.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? What are some of the repayment strategies that really stood out to you?
Well, one that's super relevant, especially these days, is income-driven repayment plans.
Oh, yeah, I've heard those.
They adjust your monthly payment based on how much you're actually earning.
So if you're making less money, you pay less.
Exactly. Which can be a huge relief for people who are just starting out or going through a rough patch.
That's awesome, but wait, it gets even better, right?
It does.
Empower Your Wallet talks about how some of these plans can even lead to loan forgiveness.
Yep. But you got to meet certain criteria, and it's super important to understand the specifics of each plan.
So it's not a free pass, but it's a possibility.
Hmm.
Okay, so income-driven repayment, definitely something to look into, but you got to do your homework, right?
For sure. But the book breaks it all down, makes it way less confusing.
Perfect. And now for the big, scary one, the word that no one wants to hear: bankruptcy.
Oof, yeah, that's heavy.
It is. But I appreciate that Empower Your Wallet doesn't shy away from it.
That's real, right? It happens.
It does happen. So the book doesn't just say avoid it at all costs. It actually presents like a balanced view.
Yeah. It acknowledges that for some people, it's truly a necessary last resort, a way to get a fresh start.
But it's not a decision to be made lightly.
Definitely not. There are serious consequences, like how it affects your credit score, your ability to borrow money in the future.
So it's a tool, but one that needs to be used with extreme caution, and only after you've really explored every other option.
Exactly. And the book really emphasizes that. Try negotiating with creditors first. See if a repayment plan is possible. There are often other ways to address the problem.
And this goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? Communication is key.
It really is.
Like, often creditors are willing to work with you if you're upfront and honest and you show that you're, committed to finding a solution.
People are often surprised by that.
Yeah, we tend to assume the worst, but sometimes just talking things through can make a huge difference. So even when facing something as scary as bankruptcy, that open communication, that willingness to collaborate, it can really change things.
Absolutely.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive: credit card debt, student loans, even bankruptcy.
Yeah, we've been busy.
We have, but there's still more to come, right?
Oh, definitely. We've only scratched the surface. We'll dive into even more specific debt types and strategies in our next part.
Can't wait. Until then, listeners, Maybe take some time to think about what we've discussed today. What resonated with you? Did any of these strategies spark an idea? Or maybe make you think differently about your own debt?
I hope so. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand your options, the better equipped you'll be to make those choices right.
Great advice. We'll be back with part 2 soon. Until then, keep those financial wheels turning. Welcome back to our deep dive into Empower Your Wallet.
Glad to be back.
Okay, so in this part, we're going to shift gears a little bit and look at some debts that, well, they tend to sneak up on people, you know?
Unexpected ones.
Exactly. Not all debt is created equal. Right. Some types, like medical debt, can just feel so overwhelming because they're often tied to circumstances that are, like, totally beyond our control.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole different ballgame.
It is. And Empower Your Wallet dives into this. It acknowledges that medical debt hits differently than, say, credit card debt. It's not always about overspending. It's about dealing with, well, life throwing you a curveball.
Right, it can happen to anyone.
It can. So where does the book suggest we start?
With understanding those medical bills, which, let's be honest, can feel like trying to read hieroglyphics sometimes.
Oh, totally. All that jargon and weird codes, like, what does this even mean?
Right. So step 1 is don't be afraid to ask questions. If something doesn't make sense, call the hospital, call your insurance company, and ask for clarification.
Okay, so be your own advocate. Don't just blindly pay whatever they send you.
Exactly. You'd be surprised how many billing errors there are. Catching those mistakes can save you a ton of money.
Oh, for sure. And while we're talking about being proactive, the book also mentions the importance of really understanding your insurance coverage.
Oh, that's huge. Knowing your deductibles, your copays, your out-of-pocket maximums, all that stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise you get hit with those surprise bills and it's like, wait, I thought it was covered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do your homework up front. Save yourself the headache later.
Okay, so that's if you have insurance. But what about situations where, even with insurance, those medical bills are just, like, impossible to handle?
Well, that's where things get interesting. The book talks about financial assistance programs.
Wait, what? Financial assistance? Tell me more.
Yeah. Hospitals and other healthcare providers, they often have these programs that offer like discounted care or even debt forgiveness for patients who meet certain income requirements.
Really? I had no idea.
It's true. And the book really stresses that it's always worth asking, even if you think you might not qualify. You never know.
So it's about being proactive again, right? Asking questions, exploring every option.
Yep. And just like with other types of debt, communication is key. The book also encourages you to talk directly with your healthcare providers about your financial situation.
So have an honest conversation, see what's possible.
Exactly. They might be willing to set up a payment plan that works for you, or maybe even reduce the total amount you owe.
Wow, so it's about, like, finding solutions that work for both sides.
Right. It's about working together. And this brings up another point the book makes about medical debt. It often comes with this, like, heavy emotional baggage.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just the financial strain, it's the stress of it all.
Exactly. So the book encourages you to, like, be kind to yourself through this process. Celebrate small victories, lean on your support system, and remember, you're not alone. A lot of people are going through this.
That's so important, that self-compassion piece. It's easy to get caught up in the numbers and the stress and forget to take care of yourself.
It happens to the best of us.
It does. Speaking of taking care of ourselves, Empower Your Wallet
Right.
also goes into a topic that I'm super excited about: the role of technology in managing debt.
Ah, yes, the tech stuff. I know you love this part.
I do. So what does the book have to say about using technology to tackle debt? Give me the highlights.
Well, it talks a lot about debt relief apps. You know, they've become super popular in recent years.
Oh, yeah, I've seen ads for those everywhere. But what do they actually do?
Basically, they're like having a personal finance assistant right in your pocket. They can help you track your debt, create a budget. Some even help you negotiate with creditors.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
But with so many different apps out there, it must be hard to know where to start.
it can be. So the book emphasizes finding an app that aligns with your specific needs and goals. Some are great for budgeting. Others are more focused on debt consolidation or credit monitoring.
So it's about figuring out what you need help with and then finding the app that fits, not just going for the most popular one.
Exactly. It's about finding the right tool for the job.
Makes sense. What are some of the features you've seen that are, like, particularly helpful in these apps?
I'm a big fan of payment reminders and alerts.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm terrible with remembering due dates.
Right. It's easy to forget. And those late fees can really add up.
Ugh, tell me about it.
Another feature I love is the ability to, like, visualize your progress.
Hmm.
A lot of apps use graphs and charts to show you how much debt you've paid off, which can be super motivating.
Oh, I can see that. Like you see that line going down and you're like, yes, I'm making progress. But it's important to remember technology is just a tool, so right?
Absolutely. It can't wave a magic wand and make your debt disappear.
Yeah, it's about using those tools to support your own efforts, your own smart choices.
Right. About empowerment, remember.
Okay, so we've talked about some pretty specific debt types like medical bills. We've explored the world of debt relief apps. But empower your wallet doesn't stop there, does it?
Nope. It goes deeper. It's not just about tackling those immediate challenges, it's about building like long-term financial skills and habits.
So it's about changing your whole relationship with money.
Exactly. It's about shifting from feeling overwhelmed to feeling empowered.
I love that. So it's not just about getting out of debt. It's about like creating a healthy, sustainable way to manage your finances for the rest of your life.
That's the goal.
What are some of the things the book suggests for achieving this, like long-term financial well-being?
Well, one of the key themes is continuous financial education. It's about making a commitment to, keep learning, staying informed.
So it's like anything else you want to get good at, right? You don't just learn it once and you're done. It's an ongoing process.
Exactly. And the book has some great ideas for how to do that.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Attending workshops, listening to podcasts like this one, reading articles, even just talking to friends or family members who are, good with money. It's about finding what works for you and making it a habit.
That makes sense. And it doesn't have to be boring, right? There's so many great resources out there these days that can actually be fun.
It can. It's all about finding what sparks your interest, what makes you want to learn more.
Okay, so in this part two, we've explored those unexpected debts like medical bills. We've gotten geeky with debt relief apps. And we've talked about the importance of ongoing financial education. But there's one more piece of the puzzle, right?
There is. And it's the best part, I think.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, Empower Your Wallet doesn't just give you the tools to tackle debt. It helps you visualize what life looks like on the other side of that journey.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. That's what we'll be diving into in the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore the emotional and psychological benefits of achieving financial freedom and how those benefits can spill over into all areas of your life.
This is where things get really inspiring, right?
Oh.
It's about moving beyond just surviving and starting to truly thrive.
Yes. It's about achieving that true financial well-being, which, let's be honest, it's about way more than just your bank account. It's about your overall sense of peace and security.
Well said. Can't wait to dive into that. We'll be back soon with part 3. Until then, listeners, keep learning, keep growing, and keep empowering yourselves. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Empower Your Wallet. We've talked about strategies, we've looked at all sorts of debt, but now I want to talk about the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. What happens when you actually reach financial freedom?
This is where the book gets really fun, I think. It's not just about crossing off debt from a list.
It's about what that achievement unlocks for you, right?
Exactly.
So it's not just about the numbers. It's about the whole emotional and psychological shift that can happen when you're not constantly stressed about money.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you've seen or that the book talks about in terms of how this transformation shows up in people's lives?
Well, one of the biggest things I hear from people is this sense of peace they haven't felt in, forever. You know, that constant worry about money, the fear of unexpected expenses.
Oh, yeah.
That starts to fade away.
It's like weight being lifted, right?
Exactly. And when that happens, it can have these amazing ripple effects in other parts of your life, too. Relationships can improve. You might feel more creative. Maybe you even start taking more risks, pursuing things you've always wanted to do but were too afraid to try before.
It's like that saying, money can't buy happiness. But maybe financial freedom can buy you some peace of mind, which frees you up to actually pursue those things that bring you joy.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about the material stuff either. The book really emphasizes that this transformation is about feeling empowered to make choices that are aligned with your values.
So it's about having the freedom to live a life that feels authentic to you, not just a life that's dictated by your financial limitations.
Exactly.
That's powerful. And I bet that sense of empowerment, that feeling of agency, can be really motivating too, right? You start to see new possibilities and you feel more confident taking those steps, whether it's starting a business, traveling, or even just, spending more quality time with your loved ones.
Absolutely. And, Empower Your Wallet doesn't just focus on the individual level either. It also talks about the broader societal impact of financial freedom.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, the book argues that when more people achieve financial well-being, it benefits everyone, like the whole community.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
For one thing, when people have less debt, they tend to spend more money locally, which supports small businesses, boosts the local economy, that kind of thing.
So it's like instead of just struggling to make ends meet, they actually have more resources to invest back into their community.
Exactly. And it's not just about spending either. People who are more financially secure are often more likely to volunteer their time, donate to charities, just generally contribute to making their community a better place.
So it's like this ripple effect. Individual financial freedom creates a stronger, more vibrant community, which then creates a more supportive environment for everyone to thrive.
Exactly. We're all connected.
That's such an important message. It's not about, every man for himself. It's about recognizing that our individual well-being is tied to the well-being of everyone around us.
Okay, so we've explored this idea of financial freedom, both on a personal and societal level. Pretty deep stuff.
It is.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring it back to our listener, make it real. What's the one thing you hope they take away from this whole conversation? What's that one small step they can take today to start moving towards a brighter financial future?
I think it goes back to that first step we talked about, facing your financial reality.
Oh yeah, no more hiding under the covers.
Right. Take a deep breath, grab a pen and paper, and just write down every debt you have, even the ones you'd rather not think about.
Acknowledge the monster.
Exactly. It's the fourth step to creating a plan and starting to feel more in control. Love that. And remember, listeners, Empower Your Wallet is a fantastic resource for this journey. It's full of practical tips, inspiring stories, all sorts of stuff to help you take charge of your finances and create that life you want to live.
It's a great guidebook.
It is. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.
Likewise.
And to our listeners, remember, financial well-being is a journey, not a destination. It takes time, it takes effort, but it's so worth it. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep empowering yourselves. We're here to cheer you on every step of the way. Until next time, happy diving.